Hi there, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today and welcome to Conversations with Coaches. For those of you that don't know me, I am Jennifer Tamborski. I'm the Chief Strategist and CEO of Virtual Marketing Experts, and I have the fantastic opportunity of working with coaches every day. And because I work with them, I love to have conversations with them. So I'm inviting you in today to join me with Shelly. Shelly, introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
All right. Thank you so much for having me today. I am a story coach and an author. I love the art of storytelling. I think that it serves everyone and it really drives society, the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we tell others. So I love helping people, whether it's simply in branding or getting out their message via their website or taking on a full project like a manuscript. That's what I do.
That's awesome. And I know we were talking a little bit before the show, and I told you I love storytelling because it is so imperative when it comes to marketing, but also just in life in general, being able to convey, your message to people is so important. So what are your 3 top tips for people when you're coaching them through their storytelling and their writing?
Yeah, so it's funny because you talk about marketing and I feel like that is a weakness for me, simply because sometimes I know the story that I have to tell and using the market strategically we find ourselves like, how do we really get noticed in a world of so much information? So the only thing that I have that I give myself the same advice is that, first of all, know the story that you're telling yourself and know the story that you're telling others, because those 2 things have to match. Because authenticity really translates, right? And then really understand what a market needs. So what does your audience need? What is the actual thing that you are giving them that provides a solution to their problem? And also those should align. So like, if you know the story that you're telling yourself and that story that you're telling others, you have this solution that you're offering to the world, because really this is all about service. And that just kind of, leads me into the third point, is that the sleazy sales and the authentic service really, they stand out, right? I can pretty much immediately tell somebody who isn't being authentic. And then even if they're confused, like maybe you're confused about what it is that you have to offer, I think it takes a good story to kind of pare down a niche to where you understand that this is that thing, whether it's a snippet of your story or an overarching, worldview. You really have to understand that those have to, match all of those things. So know the story you're telling yourself, the story you're telling others, and making sure it's authentic. Understand the product or the solution that you offer, and understand what your audience needs. Top 3 things.
Those correlate so well into what I do, as a
Yeah.
marketer. And it's so true because you can tell those people that are being authentic, authentic and authentic. I run into them every day because I'm in that world every day. And it's really imperative to really let your authenticity shine. And knowing your story, I had someone tell me not too long ago, when you come from a place of heart and service, everything you do is going to benefit somebody else.
Yeah, and I think that's difficult sometimes because it can come off as inauthentic if we're not careful, because you're just not aligned. And so that's why I start by saying, understand the story you're telling yourself is the same that you're telling others, because when those are out of alignment a little bit, that can come off as inauthentic. And so you have to spend that time understanding what that story is and how, you can bring light to it, and you don't have to shed light in all the dark places that you don't want to, right? That's not what I'm saying. But really offering that niche is what will set you apart. And, like you said, you see the like sleazy sales pitch of like, I'll give you this for $25. And then if you add that, I'll give you more. And you're like, but do I need that? What's it for? What's your story? Like we all understand that. I think that's why marketing sometimes gets a bad rap. So
I totally agree with you.
right. Mhm.
So switching off of marketing, because honestly, I could talk about marketing all day. But on another topic, I know a lot of business owners, well, the ones I interact with often become writers from business. They write their story. So do you have any tips or recommendations for those people that have a desire to share their story through writing?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things to do as a coach, is to coach somebody through the process of starting a manuscript from an idea all the way to creation of that product. And so the first thing I say that you really need to do is, I go back to own your story, basically, because a lot of times people are like, well, I'm no writer, but I'm like, well, do you write emails? Yes. Do you write your own website copy, or do you write, I mean, whatever it is, you are actually a writer. So you have to own that part of it. And your voice matters, not to everyone, but to someone. And so own that fact. But really, you just have to read, you have to write, and you have to repeat. Read, write, repeat. Whatever it is your genre is in, somebody has done it before you. So what are they doing? What are they saying? What are the top sales in that niche of yours? And then kind of emulate and practice. So every client I have, I set them through a starting base of write either a certain amount of time per day or a certain amount of words per day. Whatever feels right for you. For some people, it's 10 minutes. I mean, set a timer, 10 minutes. You'd be surprised how many words you can knock out in that amount of time. And then make sure you're reading. I really can't tolerate people who say, well, I'd love to write. I write all this stuff, but I'm not a big reader. Like, oh, that doesn't really make you a writer then, because you don't know what's being consumed, right? So you have to do that. You have to do both.
Yeah, I think it comes back to market research, no matter what you're doing, no matter what your business is, whether you own a brick and mortar business or a coach or a writer, you need to know who's doing what and what's really being effective, so that you can step into that, because life changes. Like,
so true. Yes.
Look what happened in 2020. We all
my gosh.
stepped into this world in one way, and life happens.
Right. And it's never, I mean, it's always been said, something that you want to write about has been said in another way before. My writing coach, Jeff Goins, says that you don't have to be groundbreaking, but you must be interesting. So like your, innovative product may be groundbreaking, but your story, someone has to relate to it, right? Like I recently read a memoir. Well, it was last year now, but Educated. Have you read that?
I have not read that.
It's a beautiful book, extremely well written. And she grew up on this like remote hill, and I can't even remember what state she was in, maybe South Dakota. Anyway, like her story was just so drastically bizarre, but it was a bestseller. Why? Because we can relate to every emotion she experienced as a child, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. You don't have to be groundbreaking, but you have to be interesting. And to do that, you need to know what people are consuming, what they're saying, what people are reading right now, and how the industry is going, no matter what your industry is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, from a writer's perspective, if you look back at some of the classics, they weren't bestsellers in their time. They became over time. So the point then comes back to, do you want to make money while you're alive, or do you want your book to be a bestseller?
And that's where marketing comes in, though, right? Because you have to know your audience. So if you're selling to that audience, like Michael Hyatt, he's a business coach and sells all the like leadership stuff, right? And he says, I'm not for everybody. Like that is a huge mantra. Like, I'm not for everybody, but you are for somebody.
Right.
I read a book called Finish. was it Finish? No. What was it? Oh, it was called Start, I think, by John Acuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he talks about starting the job and all the stuff. It wasn't until I read his book Finish where he talks about give yourself the gift of getting things done, right?
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, that's what I need to follow through on my stuff. And ironically, another book of his that I read was called Do Over. And it wasn't until I read a book called goodness, The Art of Work, that I quit my job. So Do Over was about quitting his job with Dave Ramsey, right? And I was like, yeah, man, that's so great. He's so awesome. And then I read this book called The Art of Work by Jeff Goins, and I'm like, that's it. My art is my work. I have to let this other thing go.
Yeah, and it's true. Yeah, because you're exactly right. Your message may not speak to everybody, but it speaks to somebody. And if you craft the message in a way they can connect with, that's what's really going to.
And it drives you to action. Like, I read all those books, right? But it was that one voice that I was just like, this is the message that made me quit my job, basically. Yeah.
This is what you needed to hear at that point.
And you have that voice for somebody. Yeah. So, yeah.
To own it. I think that's the biggest thing. Own it.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
So, for those that are looking to either write copy for their marketing or their business or become a writer, do you have like resources or places they can go to get started?
Yes. So I highly recommend a program called Scribner. Now that is a paid app, but it syncs with all of your devices. If you are a Mac, an iPhone user, it's extremely helpful. It has anything from a manuscript to a Broadway play script format template.
Very cool.
There are, tons of resources online of other people who've made templates that you can integrate, and they're free into that program. I just highly recommend it for a serious writer. If you want to really get into publishing on your own in a quick way, I suggest following Kindlepreneur with Dave Chesson. He's got a ton of free products. Not free products, free videos like YouTube stuff, and you can go to his website. It's just kindlepreneur.com, and he will teach you how to quickly get your information published on Amazon for virtually free. Okay.
Awesome.
Yes. And then Story Brand by Dawn Miller.
One of my favorites.
Yes. Huge for brand marketing. And then a book that I highly recommend for any business owner or storyteller is Stories That Stick with Kendra Hall. So she is a corporate speaker. So she goes around different corporations, and I think she's actually doing virtual speaking right now for corporations, which is fascinating, right?
Yeah.
But she wrote a book called Stories That Stick, and she really just breaks down the process of even the simplest thing it's not really that simple if you think about it, because they charge $1 million for however many seconds at the Super Bowl. But she kind of breaks down that whole process of these commercials that do so well, and the highest grossing profits from some of these are the ones that tell stories.
Yes.
The ones that fall flat.
So
right. So she just talks really about, as a business person, telling the right story.
I love those resources, and I appreciate you sharing them with the audience. So we're getting towards the end of our chat, but I do want to give the audience an opportunity to connect with you. So can you tell them how best to go about doing that?
Yeah, you can do that on my website. It's TheCreativU.com, and it's just a place where I offer my services. I keep up with a little blog on there. You can contact me for a free consultation. I always do a 20-minute free consultation. So that's where you can connect with me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. All of that information will be in the show notes below, so you can connect with Shelly. And I highly encourage you, if you are looking into writing or trying to figure out what your story is, connect with Shelly. See if you can't get some tips, tricks, or, work through that process with her. For those of you that want more information, as I said, that her contact information will be in the show notes below. Thank you so much for joining me, Shelly.
Yeah, of course. And you can always find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm just at Shelly Snow Pordea.
Awesome. So everybody, I thank you for joining me today, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks so much.